Today I'm going to show you how easy it is to change the brushes in a Milwaukee 5625-20. Now this is probably the same way to do it with some other model numbers, but this is the one we're going to attempt today. Now I'm going to specifically go through it and show you how easy it is. But before I do that, I am going to give you a bit of preamble and tell you why I'm doing this and some other things that are upcoming. So if you specifically just want to see how to do this, then you can just fast forward ahead. Hi, I'm Ron Paulk and welcome to the Smart Woodshop. I'm the designer of the Paulk Workbench, the Paulk Total Station, and the Smart Woodshop. If you want a set of plans to build yourself any of these, you can click on the link at the end of the video or in the description down below. Okay, why am I changing the brushes in my Milwaukee router? This is my big 3.5 horsepower that I only use in my router bench. The reason is I was trying to do something else and I took it apart and I broke the mount for my brush, and one of the brushes. And when you replace brushes, you want to replace both at the same time so they're even. So there's nothing wrong with the old ones. In fact, this is the broken old one. You can see that it isn't even that worn. But I broke one of the tabs off, and so I need to replace them both. I went on YouTube and I could not find a video on how to do this. So after I figured it all out, I thought, okay, I'm going to make this video and I'm going to title it as such. And so if you come here for that, obviously, like I said before, you could just fast forward to that. What I was trying to do though was mount this router in my brand new woodpecker lift. I've decided to upgrade my router benches. I have one in my Paulk compact bench and also in my total station, so the lift can go quickly in either one. And in doing so, I was under the impression when I was trying to fit it that the adjustment here would not fit. It was hitting. And the instructions, which are excellent and simple in putting this together from Woodpecker, doesn't really show me specifically the router and how it goes in. And so I thought, I must have to remove this. So I took it all apart to do that and I removed it. And in that process, I broke the brush. So I got that all figured out. I'm going to do that video and show you how to do it. In an upcoming video, I am going to show you how easy it is to mount this router in this, and Woodpecker has it all figured out. Additionally, in adding the lift, I am also adding their Woodpecker's super fence. Their big aluminum fence has a lot of adjustments. I got all the accessories. I also got their coping sled. So I will do this video today on the brushes, and this is on the Milwaukee, not the Woodpecker. Then I'll do a video on mounting this router in the Woodpecker, which should be very similar to whatever model you get of router that fit into it, just different block sizes. And then I'm going to do a separate video on setting up the super fence, and I might even do one on the coping sled. We'll see. That was just an extra accessory I decided that would be helpful for some future projects. Once I get all that together, I have a project to do. It's a repeat project, some floating shelves for an attorney's office in town that I built a couple of them in the past, and they've asked me to build them a couple more. A lot more difficult now because I was being creative in matching his office style, kind of antique-y style. And now I've got, and I took some liberties, and now I've got to recreate that, the router cuts and everything. So it's actually going to be harder, but I'm going to do that and I'll record that project so you get to see me build a couple of floating shelves with this lift as well as the super fence. So that is what is upcoming. Now let's get on to the task at hand, and that is to change the brushes in this particular router. It's not very difficult, and it doesn't take a lot of fancy tools. I think there's 9, maybe 10 screws that I have to remove. To start with, I have to remove the cap, this red part here, and to get that off, there's a knob here. This is the adjustment knob, and so I need to remove that first. So I'm using a Torx 20. There are 4 screws in this red cap, and also they're the same Torx TX20. And there's only 2 different screw sizes to deal with, and they all use the same Torx removement, so you don't have to worry about mixing the screws up. The most important thing is to set these aside somewhere so you don't lose them. And then I'll remove the red cap. It pops right off. The next thing I have to remove is the controller, the speed controller. Now there are 3 wires that connect the speed controller. The main wire coming in from the power, we don't need to disconnect. But we do need to disconnect 2 black wires that are on spade lugs. One, they look identical, so this thing will only fit on one way, so you don't really need to worry about where they go. Just before I take the 1 screw that removes this and just flip it off to the side, I'm going to pull those. It'll be a little easier. And I'm just going to use you could do it with your fingers, but I'm going to use a little pair of pliers just to get a better grip. And just pull those loose. One side, and then the other side. There's 1 screw, and all of the screws I'm going to remove inside of here are the same screw, so you don't have to worry about mixing them up. Now, with that 1 screw, I can just take the controller and just hinge it over to the side. It's still connected with the white wire. I could pull that lug and just move it completely out of the way, but that's 1 extra step. We'll just leave it in place, and it's easy to flop it right back in once we're ready to reassemble. Now, this is where the brushes go, right here. But there is a mount that the brushes go in that's got to be removed. And there's 2 screws in each one. And they're the same screws that the speed controller uses. So I'll remove those. So that is the total of 5 of that size screw and 4 of the other. So that's 9, and then the 1 screw in the cap, which I left in the cap. So we have a total of 10 screws that we have to remove, and that's it. Now, to get the brushes off, they're actually in a mount that you're going to reuse, and we need to bring that straight up. And I have found you can do it with your fingers, but it can be kind of tough. So if you just take a flathead screwdriver and you pop it in the bottom, or any flat metal pry bar, and just gently pry it up, and it'll come right up. And then once it's up, you can see how the brushes fit in, and there's just 1 spade connector that you've pried it up off of. That's where it gets its connection, and it will come off at that point. Obviously, because as with all brushes, they're spring loaded, so they push in against the motor. And so another tool that could be handy, and putting them back together, it's very handy, is a small jeweler's screwdriver that I can just press on the magnet just to get it pulled back so that you can see how it springs in there. And this is the one that's not broken, and that's how it should work. The other side, this is the broken brush that I've already pulled out. So all I have to do on this one is pop up the mount for it. And they're both identical, so you can't really mix them up. And so then to remove the old brush, it's just a matter of there's a clip on the top and a clip on the bottom. They don't take very much pressure at all, no tool necessary, and it slides out. And that is the part we're replacing. So I'll set aside the 2 old ones, and I will put a link in the description down below. I need to be attentive to where the connector is, and it goes down on both sides. You know, they're opposite. So again, everything is kind of mirrored, so really 1 assembly will work on either side. So I'm going to take this assembly, so just slide in the brush, and then it's just a matter of clipping it into place. And again, you really can't do this wrong. And there's little black plastic tabs that these the brass spring portion of this clips into, and that's it. So I just snapped it right in, and now the brush is ready to spring right against the motor. So I'm going to assemble the other one identically. To insert these, I want to press in, depress the spring that's holding the brush out. So I'm just going to go against the body, and I'm going to push it in until these wings here match up with the slots that they're going to drop into. So you really can't do this wrong if you just look at what you're doing and don't force anything. If you feel a lot of pressure, you're not doing it right. And the other thing is, I'm making sure that the electrical connection, that's this fixed spade, is going to slide up into its connector. So I'm watching all of this and just carefully fitting it in. Not complicated. You can see it all and it's very visual. And I've got it right over its spade, and I'm just pushing it down. There's a bit of friction to that. And then now I'm going to, just to make sure that I'm not hanging up on the brush, I'm just going to depress it a little bit more so that I got it against the motor. And again, I'm just fitting it and watching it, and then boom, it slides right on, and I can actually visibly see that the brush is pushing against the motor. So that one is done. And now I'm going to take the other side and do the exact same thing. So now we've got the brushes replaced, and we just need to put the speed controller back into place. There is a post on the bottom that drops into a hole, a receiving hole, so you can't really get this wrong. And the other hole is where the screw goes through. So there's just really no way to put this together improperly. And this, of course, turns all the way around, so it doesn't really matter where it is. It's an electric control, not a mechanical. Okay, so now we got to remember that we need to reattach the electrical connections. They fall right into place. And that I don't even really need the tool. I just slipped it on with my fingers. Okay, so I've got the guts all put back together. Now I just want to put the cap back on. And this one I'll just fit. I'll just make sure that everything looks good. I've got the power switch, and I've got the power cord, and I just want to make sure that they go in properly so I can see how they fit. And again, I'm not forcing anything. I'm just fitting it to make sure it goes together properly. If I'm forcing it, I've got something wrong. You see how it just slid right on there, lined up. And now I will replace the 4 cap screws. And I'm not over tightening any one until I get them all down. I'll snug them up together slowly. Finally, I'm going to put the control knob. This is the depth controller. I'm going to put that back on. So it's just that easy to change the brushes on this Milwaukee 3.5 horsepower router. If you enjoyed these videos, be sure to subscribe to the channel and ring the bell so you will know when I drop a new video. Also share this channel with your friends and help me grow my subscriber base. Thanks for dropping into the Smart Wood Shop. Have a great day.